The 4-day hostage crisis in Algeria appears to have come to an end. ABC News is reporting that at least 12 hostages have been killed, but that number is expected to increase. Among those confirmed dead is Frederick Mutasio of Katy. Another Texan, Mark Cobb of Corpus Christi, is alive after he escaped. Algerian troops stormed the BP natural gas facility today after a standoff with terrorists from the al-Qaeda offshoot called the Masked Brigade. The group seized the plant on Wednesday, but much of what happened is still not clear. Some of those numbers changing even as we speak. Joining us this morning to talk about the hostage situation is former FBI agent and KTRK security analyst Jim Conway. Jim, good morning.
Good morning.
We're seeing a lot of different numbers, some of this because these numbers are coming from the Algerian press, so ABC is trying to confirm those. We've seen some numbers as high as 19 people, hostages dead, 29 militants. So it's still not a settled situation by any means. But my first question is, what are going to be the lessons learned by the Department of Justice on this one?
Well, there's a lot of lessons. Look, this part of the world, the Badlands of Libya, Algeria, the entire Al-Maghreb area, with the fall of the Libyan revolution, okay, this has become a vacuum, and we've seen a huge movement of al-Qaeda affiliates into this area. Remember that these al-Qaeda affiliates have gathered upwards of $120 million in the last 10 years, kidnapping and extortion. So their MO is out there. We know that. We know they're involved in the kidnapping business. With the Malian intervention by French forces in these former French colonies, we're going to see this become more and more of a hotbed of activity. So I think energy companies, French companies, U.S., British companies doing business in this area have to put their antennas up and get to work in terms of locking down and securing these areas.
Yeah, of course, the French left officially in 1960,
62.
but they still have a strong presence in most of their colonies, unlike Great Britain.
Sure. They still have energy interests there, mining interests there, energy in terms of nuclear and so forth. Most of France is powered by nuclear energy, and much of their uranium mines are in this part of North Africa. So they have not only political but significant economic interests in this part of the world.
So this Masked Brigade, this is an offshoot of al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
How are they affiliated?
Yeah, al-Qaeda in the Maghreb is what they're called, but they're an affiliate. They're run by a guy by Mukhtar Belak Mukhtar. He's a bad guy. He's been around a long time. He was a jihadi mujahideen back in Afghanistan when he was in his teens. He's a hardened terrorist. He has links to Benghazi, which was in the news in recent days. So this is a hotbed area of activity. With the Arab Spring, we've seen governments fall, we've seen vacuums, and as a result, al-Qaeda has moved in. We're seeing it in Syria. We saw it in Yemen. We're seeing it in Somalia.
So there shouldn't be any surprises when these things happen.
No, absolutely not. And not any surprises when it comes to kidnapping, because kidnapping is becoming one of the big money makers. When you're talking about $120 million, look at the Somalian pirates, what they did, how they pilfered the shipping industry in the Gulf of Aden. So this is something that folks in the security industry related to energy, they have their antennas up. They know that they're going to have to harden these targets. And it's tough because these targets are out in the Badlands. They're out in the middle of the Sahara Desert. But when you're moving people on buses from one facility to another, there has to be some security measures put in place.
We're hearing some reports that not only the situation in Mali, which is more recent, but maybe going back 2 months or so, that this group may have been planning some sort of attack. Is it likely that this had a lot of planning?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, the 800-pound gorilla is in the room. Yeah. I mean, Mukhtar was on jihadi websites as recently as 2 weeks ago swearing revenge for French intervention, French forces moving into Mali to get the al-Qaeda forces out of there. So they've been swearing revenge against the West, against France and so forth. The dangerous thing here is paying ransoms to terrorists creates a vicious cycle because it not only feeds their coffers, but it also sets a precedent. Last year, the Spanish paid al-Qaeda affiliate who had kidnapped 2 Spanish journalists not only a ransom, but they released terrorists that were locked up in Spanish prisons. And that's what they're asking us for, the U.S. They want Abdel Rahman, the primary conspirator in World Trade Center 1, to be released. Also, Akia Siddiqui. They want her released, who are both in U.S. prisons.
And I know this was frustrating for the U.S. government because Algeria, as I understand it, declined some offers for assistance. However, Secretary of State Clinton, interestingly, defended the Algerians this morning, saying we don't negotiate with terrorists.
That's right. You know, the Algerians, I mean, you have to put it in historical context. They fought a long, tough 10-year war against al-Qaeda and terrorist groups in that area. And they really want to act unilaterally. They don't want other groups coming in and other governments. They want support. They want liaison. But in terms of handling the situation, they want it to handle this quick. And we'll see. We'll sort things out. It's a tough situation. It's
horrible.
A sad situation. because there's a lot of victims.
Yeah, we're so sorry for the families of these
Absolutely.
victims. Jim, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. And we'll be right back.